the biggest response I hear is, I didn't realize how tired I was. And a lot of pastors learn that this deep rest is something that they've needed for a long time.
Hey everybody, welcome to Artos Academy Conversations. My name is Ben Kampmeyer. I'm a Director of Engagement here at Our Daily Bread Ministries, and it's my privilege to be hanging out today with Sean Nemecek. Sean is the Executive Director of Pastors in Residence, PIR. Sean, it's so good to have you here with us today.
Thanks, Ben. It's a pleasure to be here.
So we're talking about a new course on Artos Academy, one that I'm really excited about, and it's called Planning Your Ministry Sabbatical. So why don't you tell us a little bit, Sean, just about who is this course for, why does it matter, and what is it about?
So this course is really for anybody who's in ministry, leadership of any kind. Most often we think of sabbaticals as being just for pastors, but this can be really for anybody. The idea is rooted in Leviticus 25, where God commands all of Israel to take a year and let the land rest. And so we believe that sabbaticals are for everybody. But they'll find that most of the work that they do here is probably geared toward pastors because we are a ministry for pastors. I think everybody benefits from a sabbatical because it really forces us to slow down. We live in a day and age where we don't slow down much. And as we slow down and as we relinquish control of our ministry to God and open ourselves up to just being present to Him and receiving His love, there's some really good things that happen during that time. One of the primary things is that our nervous system in our body calms down from the adrenaline rush and the constant go. And we learn, maybe for the first time, what it feels like to be really safe with God and present to God, which can open up an opportunity to do some work on some inner work in our relationship with God. So a sabbatical is just a profound gift to receive God and His good gifts and just be with Him. And it's a beautiful thing.
That's awesome. You know, I get the sense in this course, you care about this personally. This is personal to you. So could you tell us just a little bit about your background, your story? Why a course like this?
Yeah, my story was one of deep ministry burnout. I wrote a book on burnout called The Weary Leader's Guide to Burnout. That was really designed to be the help that I didn't have, to help people recover and really discover the leadership that God had for them in a healthy way. Part of that work was learning to rest well and to create a rhythm of work and rest. When I was recovering from burnout, I asked my small rural church for a sabbatical, and the idea was so foreign to them that they thought I was joking and laughed. And I ended up having to kind of create my own way of doing things, my own self-funded sabbatical, really short, just to get some rest. And out of that, I began to have a passion for pastors in similar situations and wanted to help them see that a sabbatical was possible, to help churches see that sabbaticals don't have to be something that are just for, the biggest churches out there, but they're really available for everybody. And how they're an investment in long-term ministry health. And so as a ministry, we are all about helping pastors become healthier and invest in their ministry for the long term. And so this sabbatical planning is really one of the key tools that we use.
You mentioned in your ministry, when you first asked for a sabbatical, the leadership of the church didn't even know what to do with that. Could you share just a little bit? I know you'll talk about this more extensively in the course, but why are sabbaticals biblical for ministry leaders?
Yeah, so one of the basic principles of a sabbatical is that you stop from your work. You cease from your work, from your productivity. We often think of a weekly Sabbath as a day to cease from your productivity, to be with God, to connect with God on a deep level. A sabbatical is an extended version of that. And like I said, it comes from Leviticus 25, where God orders the people of Israel to let the land rest. Now, in an agricultural society, letting the land rest means everybody rests. Everybody had some plot of land in some way or another. And so this becomes a chance to rest. But it also becomes a test of their faith in God. Because when you're not being productive, you're left with the idea of how am I going to be provided for? In this case, how is the church going to be cared for if I'm not there? And it's a chance for the pastor to realize that's not on them. That God cares for his church, that God's in control of his church, he oversees it. And it allows the pastor to release some of the grasping that they may have done or the over control or over responsibility that they've taken onto themselves, and realize that God is caring for his church even when they're not there, which is a profound, freeing experience that allows them to come back into ministry after sabbatical with less anxiety, less drivenness, and more presence with people. And it's a really, again, a profound gift to receive.
Yeah, that's amazing. I wonder, you've worked with a lot of pastors and churches. If we just get into the nitty-gritty of it, what are the biggest objections you hear from both churches or pastors to taking a sabbatical?
So the biggest objection I hear is, I don't get a sabbatical, why should you? There's a little bit of envy or maybe jealousy in that question, but there's an honest objection to it too. Personally, I respond to that by saying, I think everybody should get a sabbatical. And one of the things I say is, if your workplace were to offer you a sabbatical, are you telling me you wouldn't take it? And most people say, yeah, I absolutely would take a sabbatical. So then we just talk about, well, if this is a good gift that God has offered to your pastor through you, why would you not want to give this? This is an investment, as we talk about, in the health of the church, the life of the church. Another objection that we hear quite often is we can't afford a sabbatical. We can't afford to give our pastor 3 or 4 months off with pay. And to be honest, that objection is valid also, but with some creativity and maybe with some applying for grants or getting some help. Most churches can do this with ease. And I've seen churches offer their pastor a sabbatical, and that pastor didn't have any funds to do anything with. They stayed at home and built a fence in their backyard. And it was beautiful and it was good. And so it doesn't have to be some big, extravagant thing that we're talking about. We're really just saying we want you to disconnect from your work and to reconnect with God. We see some examples of that in Scripture as well. Moses up on the mountain with God. Perhaps the best one is Elijah under the broom tree after he's, had his great mountaintop ministry experience, and now he's running for his life. He's scared, he's tired, he's isolated, and yet he spends time with God and finds a passion for ministry again. That's what we want sabbaticals to be.
One of the things I really like about this course is you help us envision what it's like, how it's possible to actually take a sabbatical. So you've also worked with pastors who have taken them, and they've given you feedback on the other side of that. You mentioned briefly how they discover it's really the Lord who cares for the church. What are some other epiphanies that you've heard pastors offer from their experience of actually taking a sabbatical?
Yeah. The biggest response I hear is, I didn't realize how tired I was. Almost everybody that I've helped with a sabbatical has said some version of that. And pastors have a hard time resting in general. Not all of them, but most of them do. And so it can take a full 2 months before they really hit that deep level of rest. Many of them, the first 2 weeks, they're dealing with feelings of guilt or shame around not working. And so we have to talk about why those feelings are false and where they're coming from. Some of them have been working so hard and have been pushing on so much adrenaline. When they first step into sabbatical, their body shuts down. They get sick for the first week or two in sabbatical. And we have to talk about how that's a sign that your rhythms of work and rest have been unsustainable up to this point. And so there's a lot of things that God does with people to show them that our drivenness really isn't good. And a lot of pastors learn that this deep rest is something that they've needed for a long time. And they learn from that rest how to create a rule of life or another approach to ministry that's more sustainable. And it's really a beautiful thing to watch when the pastor hits that turning point. Another thing that I've seen quite often is pastors will say to me, I was surprised by some of the things that kind of came up from within me on sabbatical. When they reach that level of deep rest, they're in a safe place to do some work with God. And often unresolved grief, struggles with sin, patterns from their family of origin, these things begin to surface, and sometimes they're scared by that. But I like to tell pastors the reason they surface is because you're in a safe place with God, and God's inviting you to attend to those things. And they have space for a month or two to really do some deep work that allows them, again, to be less anxious and more present with people when they re-enter ministry.
Yeah, and no doubt this benefits the church too, which you've already mentioned. You know, I love this course. I love how it kind of end to end helps the pastor prepare, plan, know what to expect, appreciate what God is calling them to in this, and then receive the fruit of it. I'm wondering, for anybody, any pastor or ministry leader who's watching this video right now, and they're thinking, this might be for me, is there anything else within the course that you'd want to maybe give us a sneak preview of something that you find people get really excited about in the content?
Well, I think our dream sabbatical framework is really the heart of this content, and it helps you to break down your sabbatical into 5 movements that allow you to disconnect from your work and enter that deep rest, to reconnect with God and family, to evaluate what's working and what's not working in ministry, and then assess what needs to change. And then at the end of the sabbatical, they begin to move into a new way of doing ministry and developing a rule of life that will help them. That movement gives them a framework for their sabbatical that's really healthy, without making it feel like it's a ton of work to do. You don't want sabbatical to be a whole bunch of work. It's supposed to be rest. But this is a space for rest and reflection. And that reflection in God's presence, when they take the time to do it, that's what makes this an investment in ministry health.
Wow. Well, I'm so glad that you're going to be a part of the Artas Academy family, that we're offering this resource. And I hope that as people are watching and curious about this, that they'll engage. You mentioned your book briefly. Mm-hmm. So tell us a little bit more about the book and any other projects you might be working on.
Okay. Yeah, so my book is called The Weary Leader's Guide to Burnout, A Journey from Exhaustion to Wholeness. Most books on burnout are about how to avoid burnout. Mine is not that. Mine actually embraces the idea that burnout is real, and sometimes it's the thing that God uses to get our attention, to shape us into the leaders He wants us to be. So it has 3 movements to it. The first movement is understanding what burnout is, diagnosing it, and figuring out where this burnout came from. Why did it happen? The second movement is working through a whole bunch of tools and practices that help you recover from burnout, which are incidentally also the things that will help you avoid burnout in the future. And then the third movement is really about some of the spiritual practices that keep us from burning out again and really take us deep with Christ. My goal is that as people read through the book, they go deeper and deeper with Jesus. So it's a book that's biblically based, that's theological, that's rooted in sound counseling practices and spiritual direction practices. And so it's really kind of a comprehensive look at burnout and how to recover.
Wow. And you can buy that book anywhere. Mm-hmm. This book probably has informed a lot of your work that you've done here with Planning Your Ministry Sabbatical course too. So,
and it's part of the supplementary reading for this course, so people can check it out if they want to.
Sean, thanks again so much, and thanks everybody for watching and being a part of our TAS Academy Conversations. Really excited about the fruit that this is going to bear in and for the church, which I can tell is your heart. So thanks so much for being a part of this.
Thanks, Ben. It's a great privilege to be here.